His fiancée had put something in his son's food. Aoife Murphy's voice cut through the restaurant's cheerful din like a sharp blade. The entire dining room seemed to suck in the air at once. Conversations died. Cutlery paused in mid-air. All eyes turned to the main table, where Liam O'Connell, Dublin's most influential entrepreneur, sat beside his fiancée Fiona and his son Finn, a boy of just 9 years old who held a glass of orange cordial, while a steaming plate of pasta sat before him. Fiona rose so quickly that her chair screeched against the wooden floor. Her green eyes blazed with icy fury. She pointed an accusing finger at Aoife, who stood a few feet from the table, her order pad trembling in her hands. "Who do you think you are to accuse me of something like that?" Fiona's voice came out low, but laced with venom. "You're just a miserable waitress who doesn't know her place. I could buy this entire restaurant and dismiss you with a snap of my fingers." Aoife felt the heat rise up her neck. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she kept her gaze fixed on Fiona. She wouldn't back down. Not this time. "I saw what you did, ma'am," Aoife said, forcing her voice to be firm. "I was bringing the order to the next table and saw when you took something from your pocket and dropped it onto the boy's plate while he was looking at his father's phone." Liam's face was pale. He looked at Fiona, then at Finn, who had dropped his glass and was watching everything with wide eyes, his mouth still full of pasta. "This is absurd," Fiona snarled, turning to Liam. "Darling, are you going to let this creature disrespect me like this in front of everyone?" Liam hesitated. Aoife saw doubt settle in his eyes. He was powerful, feared, accustomed to being obeyed, but now he was torn between the woman he loved and the accusation he had just heard. "Aoife," Liam said, his voice carrying that tone of authority he used in business meetings. "Are you sure of what you're saying? Because an accusation like this is very serious." Aoife tightened her grip on the order pad. She felt all eyes in the restaurant fixed on her. Some customers already had their phones ready to record. The restaurant manager, Mrs. Boyle, watched from the kitchen entrance with an expression of absolute panic. "I am sure," Aoife replied. Her voice didn't tremble. "I saw it with my own eyes." Fiona took a step forward, invading Aoife's space. She was taller, wore expensive heels, and her red dress seemed to scream power and money. The perfume she exuded cost more than Aoife earned in an entire month's work. "You're finished," Fiona whispered, so close that only Aoife could hear. "I will destroy you. I'll make sure no one in this city gives you a job. I'll sue you for defamation. When I'm done, you'll be begging to wash dishes again." Aoife took a step back, but kept her gaze firm. Something inside her refused to yield. Perhaps it was the memory of her own mother, who had raised 3 children alone, never bowing her head to anyone. Perhaps it was the image of the boy sitting at that table, oblivious to the danger he might be in. "I will not back down," Aoife said loudly for everyone to hear. Not when a child could be at risk. The entire restaurant held its breath. Mrs. Boyle finally emerged from behind the counter and walked towards them with hurried steps. She was a woman in her early 50s, with grey hair tied in a tight bun, and her face carried decades of experience dealing with difficult customers. "Mr. O'Connell, Miss Kelly, please," Mrs. Boyle began, her hands clasped in front of her. "Let's resolve this calmly. Aoife is an exemplary employee, never had any problems here. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Fiona spun on her heels, directing all her rage at Mrs. Boyle. "Now, your employee just accused me of trying to poison a child. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime. That's slander." Liam finally stood up. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a presence that dominated any room. His graying temples and impeccably tailored suit revealed a man who had built an empire from scratch and feared nothing and no one. "Finn," Liam said, looking at his son, "did you eat anything from the plate?" The boy shook his head, his eyes still wide. "Only 2 mouthfuls, Dad, when you showed me the funny video on your phone." Liam looked at the plate. The pasta was almost untouched. He picked up the fork, poked at the pasta, examining each piece as if he could find something suspicious there. He saw nothing out of the ordinary. "Aoife," Liam said, turning to her. "You said you saw Fiona put something on the plate. What exactly did you see?" Aoife swallowed hard. All the words she had rehearsed in her head seemed to have vanished, but she forced her mouth to move, to form the sentences that needed to be said. "I saw Miss Kelly take a small sachet from her handbag pocket," Aoife said, pointing to the designer bag resting on the back of Fiona's chair. It was a small white sachet, like one of those sweetener packets. She looked around, saw that you were distracted with your phone and the boy was also looking at the screen. Then she opened the sachet and poured its contents into the pasta. Then she quickly stirred it with the fork to mix. The silence that followed was as dense as a Dublin fog. Fiona opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Her face was red with rage. Her nostrils flared. "That's a lie." Fiona exploded. "Ali, she's making all this up because she's jealous of me, because I have everything she'll never have." "I'm not jealous of anyone," Aif responded. And now her voice came out firmer, clearer. "I'm just doing what's right. A child could be in danger." Liam looked at Fiona, really looked, as if seeing her for the first time. There was something in her posture, in the way her hands trembled slightly, in her accelerated breathing, that sparked a flicker of distrust in his chest. "Fiona," Liam said slowly, "show me your bag." "What?" Fiona recoiled a step. "Are you joking? You're going to believe this employee instead of believing me." "Show me the bag," Liam repeated. His voice was colder now. "If you have nothing to hide, show me the bag." Fiona looked around, seeking support, seeking an exit. The other customers watched in absolute silence. A woman at the corner table held her phone up, clearly recording everything. A man in a grey suit by the window had wide eyes, his mouth slightly open. "I will not be humiliated like this," Fiona said, clutching her bag against her chest. "I will not allow you to treat me like a criminal." "So, you refuse to show it?" Liam asked. Fiona took another step back. Her heels clacked against the chair leg and she almost lost her balance. Liam reached out to help her, but she pulled away sharply. "I don't need to prove anything to anyone," Fiona said. Her voice came out shrill, least of all to some common waitress who doesn't know her place. Aifé felt rage pulsing in her temples. She clenched her fists at her sides, nails digging into her palms, but kept her voice calm as she responded. "My place is to defend a child," Aif said, "and that's exactly what I'm doing." Mrs. Boyle stepped forward, placing herself between Awifa and Fiona. "Mr. O'Connell," the manager said, her voice trembling, "perhaps it's best we take the plate for analysis. We can call the Gardaí, conduct a proper investigation. We don't need to turn this into a public scandal." "Public scandal?" Fiona let out a humorless laugh. "This is already a public scandal. Look around. Everyone is watching. Everyone is recording. Tomorrow this will be in all the papers, all over social media." Liam O'Connell's fiancée, accused of poisoning her stepson. She turned to Liam, and now tears streamed down her perfectly made-up face. "Liam, please," Fiona pleaded. "You know me. You know I would never do something like this. I love Finn as if he were my own son. You know that." Finn was quiet in his chair, watching everything with immense eyes. He clutched his napkin so tightly that his fingers were white. Liam ran a hand over his face. He seemed to have aged 10 years in the last 5 minutes. His certainties were crumbling, his world turning upside down. "I need to be sure," Liam said finally. "Finn is my son. I need to be sure he is safe." Fiona took a step back, then another. Her face was transfigured by rage and despair. She looked at Aifé with such intense hatred that the waitress felt a shiver run down her spine. "You will pay for this," Fiona whispered. "I swear you will pay." Then she grabbed her bag, spun on her heels, and marched towards the exit. Her steps echoed in the restaurant's silence. All eyes followed her until she walked through the door and disappeared into the street. Liam remained standing by the table, looking at the plate of pasta, as if it contained all the answers in the universe. Finn slowly stood up and grabbed his father's hand. "Dad," the boy said in a small voice, "I'm scared." Liam pulled his son into a tight hug, closed his eyes, took a deep breath, trying to bring order to the thoughts spinning chaotically in his mind. When he finally released Finn, he looked at Aifé. There was something different in his eyes now. It wasn't anger or distrust. It was something closer to gratitude mixed with fear. "Thank you," Liam said softly. "If you really saw what you say you saw, thank you for speaking up." I felt unable to form words. Her legs trembled. She felt as if she had run a marathon. Mrs. Boyle approached the table, carefully picked up the plate, and held it away from her body, as if it were a bomb about to explode. "I'll store this in a sealed container," the manager said, "and we'll call the Gardaí. They'll know what to do." Liam nodded. He pulled his phone from his pocket, dialed a number, waited. "Inspector Byrne," Liam said when someone answered on the other end. "I need you to come to O'Malley's Fine Dining immediately. We have a situation." While Liam explained what had happened on the phone, Aifé felt her legs finally give way. She leaned against the nearest chair, her breath coming in short gasps. She had crossed a line, faced one of the city's most powerful women, and now there was no turning back. The next few hours would reveal whether she had done the right thing or had just destroyed her own life. 20 minutes later, Inspector Byrne walked through the restaurant door with 2 Gardaí officers beside him. He was a man of medium height, with a prominent belly pressing against his uniform shirt, thinning hair carefully combed. to disguise his growing boldness. His small, shrewd eyes swept the room, taking in every detail, every expression, every movement. Liam immediately stood up and walked towards him. The two men greeted each other with a firm handshake. Awif watched from a distance, still leaning against the wall near the kitchen entrance. Her legs were still wobbly, but she refused to sit. She needed to be standing, alert, ready for anything. "Inspector," Liam said, keeping his voice low but clear enough for Aif to hear. "Thank you for coming so quickly. The situation is delicate." The inspector nodded, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. "I understand, Liam. Explain to me what happened here." Liam recounted everything from the beginning. His voice was controlled, but Aife noticed the subtle tremor in his hands when he pointed to the plate, which was now sealed inside a plastic container on the counter. Finn remained seated at the table, very quiet, his eyes fixed on his father. When Liam finished, the inspector looked at Awif. "You're the waitress who made the accusation?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Awif replied, straightening her posture. "My name is Awifa Murphy. I've worked here for 3 years, and you are absolutely certain of what you saw?" Aife swallowed hard. The weight of that question was immense. One wrong word, one hesitation, and everything could fall apart. But she had seen it. She had seen it clearly. "I am certain," Aife said. "I saw Miss Kelly take a small sachet from her bag and pour the contents onto the boy's plate. Then she quickly stirred it with the fork to mix." The inspector scribbled something in his notebook. One of the Gardaí officers beside him began taking photos of the sealed plate, the table, the surroundings. "And where is Miss Kelly now?" the inspector asked. "She left," Liam replied. "After I asked her to show me her bag, she refused and left." The inspector raised his eyebrows. "She refused to show the bag?" "Yes," Liam said. "She said she wouldn't be humiliated and walked out." "Interesting." The inspector wrote a few more lines. "We'll need to take the plate for laboratory analysis, and I'll need everyone present at the time of the incident to be available for statements." "Mrs. Boyle approached, her hands clasped nervously. "Inspector Byrne," she said, her voice trembling. "Will this affect my restaurant? I've always kept everything within the law, never had any problems." "Calm down, Mrs. Boyle," the inspector replied with a wave of his hand. "You haven't done anything wrong. In fact, your employee may have prevented a tragedy. We will investigate and find the truth." Aife felt a small relief at hearing that, but the relief lasted only a few seconds before being replaced by a new wave of anxiety. What if she was wrong? What if what she had seen was just a misunderstanding? Fiona could sue her, destroy her life, fulfill all those whispered threats. The inspector turned to Liam again. "Do you know your fiancée well?" Liam hesitated, ran a hand through his hair, disarranging his perfect hairstyle. "I've known her for 2 years, he replied. "We met at a charity event. She is enchanting, intelligent, sophisticated. I never saw any sign that she could do something like this. And does she have any reason to want to harm your son?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Liam opened his mouth, closed it, tried to find words that made sense. "Finn will inherit half of my fortune when he turns 21, Liam said finally, his voice coming out softer. "The other half would be divided between my wife and charities. And if something happened to Finn before that?" Liam closed his eyes. The implication was too horrible to consider. "The entire fortune would go to my wife." The silence that followed was heavy. The inspector wrote a few more lines, then put away his notebook. "We will investigate thoroughly," he said. "For now, I suggest you keep your distance from Fiona until we have more answers, and keep your son safe." Liam nodded, his expression grim. The Gardaí officers finished photographing the scene and collected the container with the plate. The inspector bid farewell and promised to return as soon as he had news from the laboratory. When they left, the restaurant remained in an eerie silence. The few customers who were still there whispered among themselves, casting furtive glances at Liam and Finn. Mrs. Boyle approached Aife. "You did the right thing," the manager said softly. "It was brave, but it was also dangerous. That woman has power, she has money, she has influence." "I know," Aife replied. Her voice came out weaker than she would have liked. "You need to be careful. People like that don't forget." Aife nodded. She knew that. She knew the next few weeks, perhaps months, would be difficult. But when she looked at Finn, still sitting at the table beside his father, she saw only a scared child who could have been poisoned if she had remained silent. Liam stood up and walked to Aife. He was much taller than her, and Aife had to lift her chin to meet his eyes. "I don't know if you saved my son's life today," Liam said, "but I know you risked yourself to protect him, and for that, I am grateful. Aife didn't know how to respond. She just nodded. If you need anything, Liam continued, pulling a business card from his pocket. Anything at all, call me. Solicitor, protection, whatever. Aife took the card with trembling fingers. It was heavy, elegant, with embossed gold letters. Thank you, sir. Liam returned to the table, took Finn by the hand, and the two left the restaurant. Aife watched them through the window, seeing the entrepreneur open the door of a gleaming black car and help his son inside. Before closing the door, Liam looked back at the restaurant, and his eyes met Aife's for a brief moment. There was gratitude there, but there was also fear. The restaurant began to empty. Customers paid their bills quickly and left, eager to escape the tension that still lingered in the air. Mrs. Boyle locked the main door and flipped the sign to closed. We're done for today, she said. We all need to process what happened. Aife went to the changing room to switch out of her uniform. Her hands trembled so much that she had difficulty opening her locker. When she finally managed to remove her apron and put on her usual clothes, she sat on the bench and buried her face in her hands. She had done the right thing. She was sure of it, but the certainty didn't dispel the fear that grew in her chest like a shadow. Fiona was rich, powerful, connected. She knew the right people, had the right resources. She could hire expensive solicitors, private investigators. She could make Aif's life a living hell. And Aif was just a waitress, an ordinary woman, without resources, without connections, without protection. When she left the changing room, Mrs. Boyle was waiting at the door. Do you want me to call a taxi? The manager asked. No need, Aife replied. I'll take the bus. Aife, listen. Mrs. Boyle held her arm. You have my number. If anything happens, anything at all, you call me. Understand? Aife nodded. Feeling her eyes sting with tears she refused to let fall. She stepped out onto the street. The sun was already setting, painting the sky orange and purple. The air was cold, biting her skin through her thin blouse. She walked to the bus stop, sat on the cold metal bench, and waited. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. You made the biggest mistake of your life. I will make you regret you were ever born. Aif felt her blood run cold. Her fingers trembled holding the phone. She looked around, but the street was empty. A few shops closing, cars passing, no one paying attention to her. Another message arrived. You think you can accuse me and get away with it? You don't know who you're messing with. I will destroy you and everyone you love. The bus arrived. Aife boarded with shaky legs, tapped her leap card, sat at the back, held her phone so tightly that her fingers hurt. She thought about replying, about blocking the number, about calling the Gardai, but in the end, she just put the phone in her bag and closed her eyes. She had crossed a line today, and now she would have to face the consequences. When she arrived home, her mother was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The smell of stew and potatoes filled Aif's nostrils, bringing a tiny bit of comfort. How was your day? Her mother asked, without looking back, busy stirring a pot. Aif didn't answer immediately. How could she explain? How could she tell her that she might have saved a child's life, but at the same time destroyed her own? It was difficult, she said finally. Her mother turned around, and something in Aif's expression made her eyes widen. What happened? Aif told her everything, every detail, every word, every glance. Her mother listened in silence, her face growing paler. When Aif finished, her mother pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. My daughter, she said, her voice trembling, you did the right thing, but you also put yourself in danger. I know. That woman will come after you. People with money and power don't like to be challenged. I know, Mum. Her mother reached out and grasped Aif's hand. But I also know that I raised you to do what's right. Even when it's difficult, even when it's dangerous. Aif felt the tears finally fall. She squeezed her mother's hand, seeking strength in that touch. We'll get through this together, her mother said. You're not alone. Aif nodded, wiping her tears with her other hand. But even with the comfort of her mother's words, the fear remained, coiled in her chest like a snake. That night, she barely managed to sleep. Every noise made her jump. Every shadow seemed like a threat. Her phone vibrated several times with new messages from the unknown number, each one more threatening than the last. Tomorrow you will wake up wishing you had stayed silent. I know where you live. I know where your family lives. This is just beginning. Aif blocked the number, but she knew it was useless. Fiona could get as many new numbers as she wanted, could hire as many people as she wanted to torment her. At 3 inches the morning, Aif was sitting in bed, hugging her knees to her chest, when she heard a noise outside, a car stopping, footsteps on the pavement, a knock at the door. Her heart pounded. She slowly got up, walked to the window, and peeked through the curtains. There was a black car parked in front of the house. 2 men in suits were at the door. One of them knocked again, harder this time. Aif went downstairs as silently as possible. Her mother was already in the living room, her face pale, holding the phone. "Who are they?" Aif whispered. "I don't know, but I'm calling the Gardaí." Before she could dial, a voice came from outside. "Aifa Murphy. We are solicitors for Miss Fiona Kelly. We need to speak with you now." Aifa exchanged a look with her mother. Fear was written on both their faces, but there was also something else. A silent determination that had been passed down from mother to daughter through generations of women who had learned to resist. "Call the Gardaí," Aifa whispered to her mother. Then, taking a deep breath, she walked to the door. She didn't open it. She just spoke loud enough to be heard from the other side. "It's 3 inches the morning. You have no right to be here at this hour." There was a pause. Then the voice replied, softer now, almost conciliatory. "We understand it's late, Miss Murphy, but the matter is urgent. Our client is willing to reach an agreement, a generous agreement. We don't want this to go any further. We don't want you to be harmed." I felt rage rising in her throat. "What do you mean, harmed?" she said, raising her voice. "Your client has been threatening me since I left the restaurant. She's sending me messages saying she's going to destroy my life. And now you show up at my house in the middle of the night. This is harassment. This is intimidation." Another silence. She heard the men talking quietly among themselves. Then the voice returned. "We have a proposal. 50,000 euros in cash. All you have to do is sign a document saying that you were mistaken, that you didn't see what you thought you saw, that it was a misunderstanding. 50,000 euros. It was more money than Aifa saw in 2 years of work. She could pay her mother's debts, fix the leaking roof, buy a used car, have a little security. But it would also mean leaving a child in danger. It would mean allowing Fiona to get away with it. It would mean breaking the promise she had made to herself never to back down. "No," Afi said. Her voice came out firm, clear, without hesitation. "I saw what I saw, and I will not lie. 100,000 euros, the voice said immediately. 100,000 euros in cash tomorrow, and you can start a new life away from here, away from all these problems." Aifa closed her eyes, felt the temptation pulling at her, whispering promises of security and comfort. But then she thought of Finn's face, the boy's scared eyes, the way he had clutched his father's hand. "You can offer 1 million, and the answer will be the same," Aifa said. "I don't lie, and I don't take bribes." She heard footsteps walking away, the sound of car doors opening and closing, the engine starting, the car pulling away down the silent street. Aifa leaned her forehead against the door, her knees almost giving way. Her mother rushed to her and hugged her. "You are the bravest person I know," her mother whispered in her ear, "but I'm also very scared for you." Aifa allowed herself to stay there for a moment in her mother's arms, letting the fear and exhaustion wash over her like a wave. Then she pulled away, wiped her face, and straightened her posture. "I'm scared too," she admitted, "but doing the right thing is worth it, always." They returned to their rooms, but neither of them could sleep. Aifa lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart still hammering in her chest, her mind spinning in circles. When the sun finally rose, she got up, exhausted but determined. She took a shower, got dressed, and went to the kitchen. Her mother was already there making tea. "Aren't you going to work today?" her mother asked. "I am. Life goes on." But when Aifa arrived at the bus stop, she found a group of journalists waiting. Cameras, microphones, recorders. They all turned at once when they saw her. "Aifa Murphy, is it true that you accused Fiona Kelly of trying to poison her stepson? Why would you make such a serious accusation? Fiona is saying you're jealous of her and that you made everything up. What do you have to say?" Aif took a step back, overwhelmed by the wall of people and equipment. Her heart pounded. She didn't know what to say, how to answer, how to escape that situation. I can't talk about this now," she managed to say. "But people want to know the truth. Fiona is giving interviews saying you're a liar. She said she's going to sue you for defamation and is demanding €1 million in compensation." €1 million. The number spun in Aifa's head like a whirlwind. It was impossible. She would never have €1 million. Fiona knew that. It was another form of pressure, another attempt to destroy her. "I saw what I saw," Aifa said, forcing her voice to come out louder, "and I told the truth. Now, please, let me pass." She pushed through the crowd of journalists, ignoring the questions that continued to be shouted. She managed to get on the bus before they could follow her. The bus pulled away, leaving the journalists behind. Aifa sat at the back, trembling. She saw some passengers recognizing her, whispering among themselves. An elderly woman leaned over and whispered, "You did the right thing, dear. Don't let those rich people scare you." Aife felt tears stinging in her eyes, but she also felt a small thread of hope. She wasn't completely alone. There were people who believed her. When she arrived at the restaurant, she found Mrs. Boyle at the door with a grim expression. "Aif," the manager said, "we need to talk." Aif's heart sank. She knew what was coming next. "You're going to fire me," Aif said. It wasn't a question. Mrs. Boyle sighed, rubbing her tired eyes. "I've been getting calls all morning. Customers canceling reservations, suppliers threatening to cut contracts. Someone posted fake negative reviews online, saying our restaurant serves contaminated food. My reputation is being destroyed. And you think firing me will solve that? I don't know, but I know I can't go on like this. I have employees who depend on me. I have bills to pay." Aife felt rage simmering in her chest, but she also understood. Mrs. Boyle wasn't a bad person. She was just a woman trying to survive in a world where the rich always win. "So that's it?" Aife asked. Fiona got what she wanted. "I'm not saying you lied," Mrs. Boyle said quickly. "I believe you, but I can't let my business sink." Aife nodded slowly. She felt as if the ground were opening beneath her feet. "How long?" "Until the end of the week. I'll pay your last 2 weeks as compensation. It's the least I can do." Aife turned to leave, but Mrs. Boyle held her arm. "Aife, I'm truly sorry. You're one of the best employees I've ever had, but I'm being forced to do this." "I know," Aife said. Her voice came out emotionless. She was too tired to feel anything but a deep emptiness. She spent the rest of the day working on autopilot, waiting tables, smiling mechanically, doing her job. The other employees looked at her with a mixture of pity and fear. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone knew that Aife was being sacrificed. At the end of her shift, as she was putting away her apron in the changing room, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but this time she decided to answer. Aife Murphy, a female voice, clear and professional. "Yes, my name is Siobhan Doyle. I'm an investigative reporter for the Dublin Herald. I'm doing a story about your case and would like to speak with you." Aife hesitated. She had seen what happened when the media got involved, the distortions, the sensational headlines, the half-truths. "I don't know if I want to talk to the press," Aife said. "I understand your hesitation, but listen, I've investigated Fiona Kelly and discovered some interesting things. Things you should know." Aife felt her heart race. "What kind of things?" "I'd prefer not to speak by phone. Can we meet tomorrow somewhere public?" Aife thought for a moment. It could be a trap. It could be another way for Fiona to try and manipulate her, but it could also be the only chance to discover the full truth. "All right," Aife said, agreeing to meet the next day at a cafe across town. When Aife hung up, she felt a strange mix of hope and apprehension. That night, as she was returning home on the crowded bus, Aife saw a news item on a passenger's phone next to her. The headline read, "Fiona Kelly gives exclusive interview. I am a victim of a jealous waitress who wants to destroy my life." Aife closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The battle was just beginning. When she arrived home, she found her mother in the kitchen with a worried expression. "This came for you," her mother said, handing her a thick envelope. Aife opened it. It was a court summons. Fiona was really suing. She was demanding compensation for moral damages in the amount of €1 million, as well as a full public retraction. Aife read the entire document, each word feeling like a punch to the stomach. When she finished, she placed the papers on the table and looked at her mother. "She's going to destroy me," Aife said. For the first time, her voice truly trembled. "I can't afford a solicitor. I can't defend myself. She's going to win and I'm going to lose everything." Her mother approached and held her face in her hands. "You did what was right," her mother said firmly. "And when you do what's right, the universe conspires in your favor. It might take time, it might be difficult, but justice always wins in the end." Aife wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe that her courage hadn't been in vain. But at that moment, feeling the weight of the summons in her hands, it was hard to have hope. That night, before going to sleep, Aife picked up the business card Liam had given her at the restaurant. She looked at the name engraved in gold letters for a long time. Then, making a decision, she picked up her phone and typed a message. "Mr. O'Connell, this is Aife Murphy. I need help. Your fiancé is suing me and I have no way to defend myself. You offered help. Does that offer still stand?" She pressed send before she could change her mind. Then she stared at the screen, waiting. The minutes passed slowly. Then, when she was about to give up and go to sleep, the reply arrived. "Aife, I'm sorry for what you're going through. Yes, my offer still stands. I will send my solicitor to speak with you tomorrow. And there's one more thing you need to know. The laboratory results are in. Aifa held her breath, her fingers trembling over the screen. The answer took a few seconds to arrive, but when it came, it changed everything. There was a powerful sedative in the pasta, a dose high enough to make a child sleep deeply. Finn could have died if he had eaten it all. Aifa let the phone fall onto her lap. Her hands trembled so much she could barely hold it. She had been right. She had seen the truth. Fiona really had tried to drug Finn. But why? What was the ultimate plan? Liam's last message arrived. You saved my son's life, and I will ensure Fiona pays for this, even if it's the last thing I do. The next morning, Aifa woke with renewed determination. The laboratory results proved that she wasn't crazy. She hadn't made anything up. Fiona had really tried to drug Finn. Now it was a matter of proving intent and seeing justice done. She got ready carefully, choosing the most presentable clothes she had. She knew she would have two important meetings that day. First with the reporter Siobhan Doyle, then with Liam's solicitor. The cafe where Siobhan had arranged to meet was small and discreet, hidden on a quiet street, far from the bustling city center. Aifa arrived a few minutes early and chose a corner table with her back to the wall, from where she could see the door. Siobhan arrived exactly on time. She was a woman in her 40s, with brown hair tied in a practical ponytail, thin-framed glasses, simple but professional clothes. She carried a worn leather briefcase and a digital recorder. Aifa? She asked, extending her hand. Yes, Siobhan. They greeted each other, and Siobhan sat opposite Aifa. She ordered a black coffee and waited for the waitress to walk away before speaking. Thank you for agreeing to meet me, Siobhan said, taking the recorder from her briefcase. May I record our conversation? I assure you nothing will be published without your authorization. Aifa hesitated, then nodded. Siobhan turned on the recorder and placed it on the table. So, the reporter began, tell me your version of events. From the beginning, Aifa told her everything, every detail she could remember. Siobhan listened in silence, making occasional notes, but mainly just paying attention with an intensity that made Aifa feel that her words really mattered. When Aifa finished, Siobhan turned off the recorder and leaned forward. Now let me tell you what I've discovered about Fiona Kelly, Siobhan said, lowering her voice. She's not who she says she is. Aifa felt a shiver run down her spine. What do you mean? Fiona Kelly is a false name, or rather, it's a name she adopted 3 years ago. Before that, she was called Valerie Clark, and she had a criminal record. Aifa's eyes widened. What kind of record? Siobhan took a folder from her bag and opened it, revealing documents, photos, printed articles. 7 years ago, Valerie Clark worked as a caregiver for an elderly gentleman named Cian Fitzpatrick. He was a wealthy widower, without children. 3 months after Valerie started working for him, Cian changed his will, leaving half his fortune to her. 2 months after that, he died. Aifa felt her stomach churn. How did he die? Officially, a heart attack, but the family suspected and hired private investigators. They found evidence that Valerie was administering non-prescribed medications to Mr. Fitzpatrick, but before they could present the evidence in court, Valerie disappeared, took the inheritance money, and vanished. Siobhan turned a page, showing an old photo. It was Fiona, but with darker hair and glasses. The face was the same, but there was something different in the expression, something harder, more calculating. Mr. Fitzpatrick's family tried to sue her, but she had protected herself well. She used false documents, opened accounts in tax havens. When they finally managed to track her down, she had already changed her name and appearance. Aifa felt her head spinning. Everything made sense now. Fiona's plan wasn't just to drug Finn. It was more complex, more sinister. She wanted Liam's fortune, Aifa said slowly, the pieces falling into place. If something happened to Finn, the entire inheritance would go to the wife, to her. Exactly, Siobhan confirmed. And from what I've researched about their routine, Finn often traveled with his father. Business trips, holidays in remote places. If he died during one of these trips, far from hospitals, without witnesses, it could easily be passed off as an accident or sudden illness. Aifa felt nausea rise in her throat, thinking that she had been so close to a killer, that she had looked into her eyes, that she had been threatened by her. Why didn't you take this to the Gardaí? Aifa asked. I did, Siobhan replied, but it's not that simple. Much of the evidence is circumstantial. We need something more concrete to get a conviction. And that's where you come in. You are the only eyewitness. You saw Fiona putting the sedative in Finn's food. Your testimony, combined with the laboratory results and her history, might be enough to put her behind bars. Aife felt the weight of that responsibility fall on her shoulders like a stone. But she's suing me. She's saying I lied, that I made everything up. She's using her money and power to destroy me. I know, and that's why we need to fight back. I want to publish an article exposing who Fiona really is, showing her past, her lies, her plan. But I need your permission, because this will bring even more attention to you. It's going to be a public battle. Aife remained silent for a long moment. She thought of her mother, of her simple life, of how everything had become complicated in just a few days. But she also thought of Finn, of Sian Fitzpatrick, of how many other victims there could be if Fiona wasn't stopped. Do the article, Aife said finally. Tell the truth, even if it costs me everything. Siobhan smiled, and there was genuine respect in her eyes. You are brave, Aife, braver than many people I've met. They talked for a few more minutes, settling details. Siobhan promised that the article would be out the next day, in both print and online editions. It would be the main headline. When Aife left the cafe, she felt simultaneously lighter and heavier. Lighter, because there was finally a plan, a way to fight back. Heavier, because she knew the next few weeks would be the most difficult of her life. She went directly to Liam's solicitor's office. The building was tall, modern, all gleaming glass. The kind of place Aife had never entered before. She felt small and out of place in the luxurious lobby, with its marble floor and minimalist decor. But the receptionist treated her with respect, checked her name on a list, and directed her to the 12th floor. The solicitor's name was Cormac Gallagher. He was a man in his 50s, with perfectly combed grey hair, an impeccable suit. His office had a view of the entire city, with shelves full of law books and framed diplomas on the walls. Miss Murphy, he said, standing up to greet her. Please, sit down. Mr. O'Connell told me everything. Aife sat in an overly comfortable leather chair. Cormac sat opposite her, clasped his fingers on the desk, and looked her directly in the eyes. First, I want you to know that you will emerge victorious from this situation. Fiona made a mistake by suing you. It gave us the perfect opening to expose all her crimes. How? Aife asked. We're going to countersue, not just for moral damages, but also for attempted murder, witness intimidation, identity fraud. We're going to lay everything bare, and with the information that the reporter Siobhan Doyle discovered, we have enough ammunition. Cormac opened a folder and began to show documents to Aife. They were petitions, counter-accusations, compiled evidence. It was impressive to see everything organized that way, transformed into solid legal arguments. But I need to be honest with you, Cormac continued. This is going to be a long battle. Fiona has resources, she has connections. She will fight with all her might and will try to break you in the process. She's already trying, Aife said. I was fired. I'm receiving threats. Journalists are pursuing me. All this will get worse before it gets better, Cormac admitted. But I promise I will protect you as best as possible. We will get a restraining order against her. We will document every threat, every attempt at intimidation, and in the end, we will use all of it against her in court. Aife nodded, trying to absorb it all. It was too much, overwhelming. Cormac noticed her expression and softened his tone. I know it's scary, but you're not alone in this. Liam is on your side. I am on your side. And when Siobhan's article comes out, public opinion will be on your side too. They spent the next 2 hours reviewing everything, signing documents, preparing the legal strategy. When Aife finally left the office, the sun was already setting. She felt exhausted, but also strangely hopeful. On her way back home, her phone rang. It was Liam. Aife, were you able to speak with Cormac? Yes. I just left his office. Excellent. I want you to know that anything you need, anything at all, just ask. You saved my son. I owe you my life. Aife felt a lump in her throat. She didn't know how to respond to so much gratitude. How is Finn? She asked. Scared, but well. The doctors examined him thoroughly. There's no permanent damage, but if he had eaten the whole plate. Liam's voice faltered for a moment. I don't even want to think about it. And Fiona, where is she? She's disappeared. She's not at her apartment. She's not answering calls. But the Gardaí are looking. With the lab results and your testimony, they'll arrest her as soon as they find her. They talked for a few more minutes before saying goodbye. Aife put away her phone and looked out the bus window. The city passed by outside, thousands of lights twinkling in the growing darkness. She thought about how her life had completely changed in just a few days, how a single moment of courage had unleashed all of this. Part of her wished she could go back, stay silent, avoid all that chaos. But then she thought of Finn, she thought of Sian Fitzpatrick. She thought of all the victims of people like Fiona, people who used charm and manipulation to destroy lives, and she knew she had made the right choice. When she arrived home, her mother was watching the news. The TV showed a photo of Fiona, followed by the headline, "Wanted, entrepreneur accused of attempted murder, disappears." "It's all over the news," her mother said, turning to Aife. "Everyone is talking about it, and many people are on your side. I saw online comments. They're calling you a hero." Aife didn't feel like a hero. She felt tired, scared, still processing everything. But there was a small spark of satisfaction knowing that the truth was finally coming out. That night, as she prepared for bed, Aife received one last message from an unknown number. Her heart raced, expecting another threat, but when she opened it, the message just said, "You think you've won, but this is far from over. I always get what I want, always." Aife blocked the number, but she knew it was no use. Fiona was out there, somewhere, planning her next move, and Aife would have to be ready. Siobhan Doyle's article came out the next morning, as promised. The headline covered the entire front page of the Dublin Herald. Fiona's facade. Con artist assumed false identity to deceive entrepreneur and attempt to murder stepson. Aife bought the newspaper from the corner shop and read everything while having tea in the kitchen. Siobhan had done a meticulous job. Every detail of Fiona's past was documented with photos, interviews, public records. The story of Mr. Sian Fitzpatrick was told with compassion and indignation. The plan against Finn was exposed with brutal clarity, and in the midst of it all was Aife, described not as a jealous waitress, but as a courageous woman who risked everything to protect a child. Her phone started ringing non-stop. Calls from acquaintances, distant friends, even people she barely knew. Everyone wanted to know if she was okay, to offer support, to express admiration. On social media, hashtags like #JusticeForAife and #EverydayHero began to emerge, but not all the attention was positive. There were also hate messages, people accusing her of seeking fame, of fabricating stories. Fiona still had supporters, people who refused to believe that someone so elegant and sophisticated could be a criminal. Aife tried to ignore everything and focus on what truly mattered, ensuring that Fiona was brought to justice. On the third day after the article's publication, Aife received a call from Cormac Gallagher. "Aife, we have news," the solicitor said. The Gardaí located Fiona. Aife's heart pounded. "Where?" "At the airport. She was trying to catch a flight to Panama using a false passport, but Interpol had issued an international alert. She was arrested on the spot." Aife felt her legs go wobbly. She sat in the nearest chair, holding the phone tightly. And now? Now she will be formally charged. Attempted murder, identity fraud, use of a false document, witness intimidation. The list is long, and with all the evidence we have, she's unlikely to get bail. So, it's over. Cormac hesitated. "Not completely. We still have the criminal process to face, but we are in a very strong position, and most importantly, Finn is safe. Liam is safe. You are safe." Aife hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long time. She felt strangely empty. She had expected to feel relief, triumph, joy, but all she felt was a deep fatigue and a sense of unreality. Her mother came into the kitchen and found her there, staring into space. "Daughter, what's wrong?" "They arrested Fiona," Aife said. "It's over." Her mother pulled up a chair and sat beside her, taking her hand. "Then why don't you look happy?" Aife thought about the question. Why wasn't she happy? I guess a part of me still doesn't believe it. It seems surreal, as if something else will happen, and she'll escape again. But she won't escape, her mother said firmly. This time, justice will be done. Aife wanted to believe that, but she had seen so much injustice in the world, so many times when rich and powerful people got away with it, that it was hard to trust completely. In the following days, the story exploded nationally. Television programs discussed the case. Legal experts commented on the legal implications. Fiona became a symbol of everything that was wrong with people who used money and manipulation to destroy lives. And Aife, whether she wanted to or not, became a symbol too. A symbol of courage, of doing the right thing, even when it's difficult, of not being intimidated by power and money. A week after Fiona's arrest, Aife received an unexpected invitation. Liam wanted her to come to his house. He said he had something important to discuss. Aife accepted, curious but also apprehensive. She had never been in such a luxurious house. The gate was security controlled. The entrance had an ornate fountain. The gardens were perfectly manicured. A housekeeper led her to a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a view of the city. Liam was waiting there with Finn beside him. The boy ran to Aoife as soon as he saw her. "You saved my life," he said, hugging her tightly. "My dad told me everything. You're a hero." Aoife knelt to his height, feeling tears sting her eyes. "I just did what anyone should do," she said. "But you were the only one who did," Finn replied. "Everyone was watching, but only you spoke up." Liam approached, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "Finn is right," he said. "You were the only one brave enough to act, and for that, Finn and I wanted to thank you personally, and also make you an offer." Aoife stood up, confused. "An offer?" Liam guided her to the sofa, indicating she should sit. Finn sat beside her, still smiling. "I know you lost your job because of me," Liam began, "and even though Cormac has assured you that you'll receive significant compensation in the case against Fiona, that could take months, even years to resolve completely. In the meantime, you need to work. You need to support yourself." "I'll find something," Aoife said, though she had no idea where or how. Her name was in all the papers. Some employers might see her as a hero, but others would see her as a problem, as someone who attracted unwanted attention. "I have a proposal," Liam said. "I want to offer you a job at one of my companies, not as a waitress or any manual labor, but as a corporate social responsibility manager. You would be responsible for overseeing our charity programs, ensuring we're making a difference in the community, protecting employees from any abuse or injustice." Aoife was speechless. It was an opportunity she had never imagined having, a job that would pay well, that would have meaning, that would use exactly the qualities she had demonstrated: courage, ethics, a commitment to doing the right thing. I don't know what to say," Aoife stammered. "Say yes," Finn pleaded, holding her hand. "Please, that way you can stay close to us, and I can see you always." Aoife looked at the boy, then at Liam. There was genuine sincerity in both their eyes. It wasn't charity, it was recognition, it was justice. "Yes," Aoife said finally, smiling for the first time in days. "I accept." Liam smiled too, extending his hand. They shook hands, sealing the agreement, but then Liam's expression grew more serious. "There's one more thing you need to know," he said. "The Gardaí found evidence in Fiona's apartment diaries, notes, detailed plans. She wasn't just planning to drug Finn, she was planning something worse." Aoife felt a shiver. "What do you mean?" Liam hesitated, looking at Finn. The boy noticed and stood up. "I'll go outside and see the garden," Finn said, understanding that the adults needed to talk privately. When the boy left, Liam leaned forward, his voice low and tense. Fiona was planning to kidnap Finn. She had contacts with criminals. She had a remote location rented in another county. The plan was to drug him at the restaurant, take him during the confusion, fake a kidnapping, and demand a ransom. But the ransom would never be paid, because Finn would already be dead, and all the inheritance money would go to her as a traumatized widow. Aoife felt nausea rise in her throat. It was worse than she had imagined, much worse. "My God, if you hadn't spoken up that day," Liam continued, his voice trembling slightly. "If you had stayed silent like everyone else, my son would be dead now, and Fiona would be rich, free, probably already planning her next victim." They remained silent for a moment, the weight of that revelation hanging in the air between them. "Will the Gardaí use this evidence in the trial?" Aoife asked. "Yes, Cormac is working with the prosecutors. With everything that's been discovered, Fiona will likely get a life sentence. She'll never be able to harm anyone again." Aoife nodded slowly. It was the outcome Fiona deserved, but even so, it was difficult to process the magnitude of it all. Finn came running back into the room, holding a book. "Aoife, can you help me with this?" he asked, showing a maths book. "I have homework, and I don't understand." Aoife smiled, grateful for the distraction from the heavy conversation. She spent the next hour helping Finn with his homework, while Liam watched with an expression of gratitude and peace he hadn't had in weeks. When Aoife finally said goodbye and returned home, she felt something new growing in her chest. It wasn't just relief, it was hope. Hope that she had made a real difference. Hope that her courage had been worth it. Hope that the future would be better. But then, when she was almost home, her phone rang. It was Cormac Gallagher, and his voice was tense. "Aoife, we need to talk now. Fiona has just escaped from prison." The world seemed to stop. Aoife felt her blood run cold in her veins. "How? When?" "An hour ago." "We don't know the details yet, but it seems she had inside help." "Aoife, you need to go to a safe place now. She swore she would take revenge on you, and now she's free." Aoife looked around the empty street, suddenly feeling as if she were being watched. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every sound seemed sinister. What do I do? I've already sent security to your house. They'll pick you and your mother up and take you to a safe location. Stay where you are. Don't move. They'll be there in 5 minutes. Aif leaned against a wall, her heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. 5 minutes felt like an eternity. She looked at the dark street, at the illuminated windows of the houses around her, at the starless sky, and wondered if Fiona was already there somewhere in the shadows, watching, waiting, planning. The battle wasn't over after all. It had only begun its most dangerous phase. The 5 minutes stretched like hours. Aif remained pressed against the wall, her eyes scanning every movement on the street, every sound amplified by the fear pulsing in her veins. The phone was clutched in her sweaty hand, ready to dial emergency at any second. When she finally saw 2 black cars turn the corner and pull up beside her, the relief almost made her collapse. 2 burly men in dark suits got out, one of them approaching her, while the other scanned the surroundings with trained eyes. "Miss Murphy, I'm Mark, Mr. O'Connell's head of security. Please, come with me. We'll pick up your mother and take you both to a safe location." Aif got into the car, her legs trembling. Mark drove quickly but carefully to her house, where the other security car was already parked. Her mother was at the door, a small suitcase in her hands, her face pale but controlled. "Mum," Aif ran to her, hugging her tightly. "I'm here, daughter. It's okay. We're going to be okay." They got into the car together. Mark explained that they were being taken to a secure apartment on the other side of the city, a place Liam kept for emergency situations. It would have 2 4-hour security, cameras, alarms, everything they needed. During the journey, Aif's phone rang. It was Liam. "Aif, are you both safe?" "Yes, we're on our way to the apartment." "Excellent. Aif, I need to tell you something." The Gardaí discovered how Fiona escaped. She had an accomplice inside the prison, a guard she knew from her days as Valerie Clark. He helped her escape in exchange for money. And now, what are the Gardaí doing? The entire police force is looking for her. There are roadblocks, airport surveillance, alerts in all neighboring counties. But Aif, Liam's voice grew more tense. They found something concerning on the guard's phone. Messages from Fiona. "She's obsessed with you. She blames you for ruining everything and is determined to get revenge before fleeing the country." Aif closed her eyes, feeling the weight of those words. "So, she's coming after me. We won't let her get near you, but I need you to stay in the secure apartment. Don't leave for any reason. Understand?" Understood. But Aif knew, with a certainty that made her sick, that Fiona would not give up easily. She was intelligent, calculating, determined. If she wanted to reach Aif, she would find a way. The secure apartment was on the 23rd floor of a modern building in the city center. It was spacious, well furnished, with large windows that offered a view of the city lights below. But to Aif, it felt like a gilded cage. 2 security guards remained at the door. Mark did a complete sweep of the apartment, checked all the windows, tested all the alarms. Only when he was satisfied did he withdraw, leaving Aif and her mother alone. "Try to get some rest," her mother said, gently touching Aif's arm. "We're safe here." Aif nodded, but knew she wouldn't be able to sleep. She went to the window and looked out at the city below. Somewhere in that sea of lights, Fiona was hidden, planning, waiting for her chance. The hours passed slowly. Aif tried to read, watch television, do anything to distract her mind, but nothing worked. Her mother finally fell asleep on the sofa, exhausted from the stress. Aif covered her with a blanket and returned to the window. It was almost midnight when her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "Hello, Aif. Did you miss me?" Aif's blood ran cold. It was Fiona. She had managed a new phone, a new number. Before Aif could reply or block the number, another message arrived. It was a photo taken from outside the building where Aif was now, showing the illuminated windows of the 23rd floor. "I found you." Aif recoiled from the window as if she had been shot. Her hands trembled so much that she almost dropped the phone. She ran to the door and knocked, calling the security guards. Mark entered immediately, his hand on his weapon holster. "What is it?" Aif showed him the messages. Mark cursed softly and spoke rapidly into his radio, alerting the team. In seconds, the apartment was in total lockdown. Curtains were drawn, extra lights extinguished, more security guards called. "How did she find out where we are?" Aif asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Mark replied, his face tense. "But we won't let her get close. Reinforcements are coming. The Gardaí have been notified, but Aoife felt something was wrong. Fiona wouldn't have revealed her location unless she was absolutely confident, unless she had a plan. The answer came 10 minutes later, when the fire alarm began to blare. Smoke began to seep in from under the door. Shit! Mark ran to the door, touched the metal. It was hot. There's a fire in the corridor. Aoife ran to her mother, shaking her awake. Mum, wake up. We have to get out. Her mother woke up startled, her eyes wide as she saw the smoke beginning to fill the apartment. Mark spoke rapidly into the radio, but there was no response. Communication had gone down. He tried his mobile, but there was no signal either. She's blocked communications, Mark said through gritted teeth. This was planned. He ran to the window, opened the curtains, and looked down. They were on the 23rd floor. There was no way down, no escape. The smoke was getting thicker. Aoife tore off pieces of fabric and wet them in the sink, handing them to her mother and Mark to cover their noses and mouths. But she knew it wouldn't be enough for long. Mark tried the door once more, but it was locked from the outside. Someone had tampered with the electronic locks. They were trapped. I'm going to have to break it down, Mark said, preparing to kick the door. But before he could do that, they heard a sound from the other side. Footsteps. Someone approaching through the smoke in the corridor. The door slowly opened, and there stood Fiona. She looked different. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared, her clothes dirty and crumpled, but her eyes were bright with a mixture of rage and triumph. In her hand, she held a gun. Surprise, Fiona said, her voice hoarse from the smoke. She pointed the gun directly at Aoife. You thought I wouldn't be able to reach you, that your expensive security and your luxury apartment would stop me. Mark moved quickly, placing himself between Fiona and Aoife. But Fiona just laughed. Don't be an idiot. Get out of the way or I'll shoot you too. Fiona, Aoife said, her voice coming out firmer than she expected. This won't solve anything. The Gardaí already know you're here. There's no escape. I don't care about escaping anymore, Fiona replied. There was something feverish in her eyes, something broken and dangerous. You destroyed everything. Everything. My life, my plans, my future. And now I'm going to destroy you. It's all I have left. The smoke was becoming unbearable. Aoife could hear sirens below, but they were too far away. They wouldn't arrive in time. Please, Aoife's mother said, her voice muffled behind the wet cloth. My daughter only did what was right. She protected a child. A child? Fiona let out a bitter laugh. That spoiled brat who never worked a day in his life, who was born rich and will die rich, while people like me have to fight for every crumb. He didn't deserve that fortune. I deserved it. You don't deserve anything, Aoife said, and now there was anger in her voice too. You killed an innocent man, tried to kill a child, lied, manipulated, destroyed lives. You are a murderer, and you will pay for everything you've done. Fiona took a step forward, her hand trembling as she held the gun. I won't pay for anything, because when I'm done here, I'll disappear, and no one will ever find me again. That's when everything happened at once. Mark moved, trying to disarm Fiona. There was a gunshot. Aoife screamed. Her mother pulled her to the floor, but the shot hadn't hit anyone. It had missed, embedding itself in the wall behind them. Mark had managed to deflect the gun at the last second. He and Fiona were now struggling, rolling on the floor. She was surprisingly strong, driven by desperation and rage, but Mark was bigger, trained, professional. He finally managed to wrench the gun from her and pin her against the floor. Fiona screamed, struggled, but couldn't free herself. Tears streamed down her face, leaving streaks in the soot. It's not fair, she screamed. It's not fair. I deserved that life. I deserved it. That's when the door exploded inwards. Firefighters rushing in, dragging hoses. Gardaí officers right behind them, weapons drawn. In seconds, the apartment was full of people. An officer took control of Fiona, putting handcuffs on her wrists while she continued to scream incoherently. Another officer helped Aoife and her mother to their feet, guiding them out of the smoke-filled apartment. In the corridor, paramedics waited with oxygen masks. Aoife took a deep breath of the clean air, coughing, her eyes burning. Her mother was beside her, also coughing, but alive. Aoife saw them take Fiona away. She was quiet now, her body slumped, finally defeated. Her eyes met Aoife's for one last moment. There was no more rage there, only emptiness. Liam arrived minutes later, Finn running ahead of him. The boy hugged Aoife so tightly she almost lost her balance. Are you okay? Are you okay? Finn repeated, the words tumbling out. I'm fine, Aoife reassured him, hugging him back. We're all fine. Liam placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes shining with emotion. It's over, he said. It's really over, this time. Fiona is arrested, and this time she won't escape. And he was right. In the days that followed, Fiona was formally charged with an extensive list of crimes: attempted murder, premeditated arson, illegal possession of a firearm, prison escape, and dozens of other charges. With all the evidence and testimonies, there was no chance of escape. The trial took place 3 months later. Aoife testified, telling her story with clarity and courage. Other testimonies followed. Mr. Sian Fitzpatrick's family, the prison guard who had aided in the escape, experts analyzing the evidence. When the verdict was read, Fiona remained impassive, guilty on all counts. Sentence: more than 40 years in prison, with denial of parole for years due to the severity of the crimes. When Aoife left the courthouse that day, the sun was shining brightly. Journalists were waiting, but this time she was ready. She stopped in front of the cameras and spoke with a clear, firm voice. Today, justice was done not only for me, but for Mr. Sian Fitzpatrick, for Finn, for all the victims of people who use power and manipulation to destroy lives. I learned that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it, and that an ordinary person can make an extraordinary difference when they have the courage to speak up. Questions continued, but Aoife walked away, heading to where her mother, Liam, and Finn were waiting. They went to lunch together, a silent celebration of everything they had overcome. 6 months later, Aoife was in her new office at Liam's company. It was spacious, with a view of the city, but she had decorated it with photos of her family, reminders of what truly mattered. Her job as corporate social responsibility manager was challenging, but rewarding. She oversaw programs that helped vulnerable employees, ensured no one was mistreated or abused, created charity initiatives that truly made a difference in the community. And sometimes, when she had a free moment, she looked out the window and thought about how her life had changed. A single moment of courage had unleashed everything. It had come at a cost. Sleepless nights, constant fear, the feeling of always being in danger. But it had also saved a life, put a criminal behind bars, proved that ordinary people can face the powerful and win. Her phone rang. It was Finn, sending a photo of him at the park with his father, both smiling. "Thanks for saving me. You're my hero." Aoife smiled, put away her phone, and returned to work. There was much to do, many people to help, many injustices to fight, and she was ready because she had learned the most important lesson of all. Never back down when you see something wrong. Always have the courage to speak up, always fight for what's right, even when it's scary, even when it's difficult, even when it seems impossible. Because in the end, doing the right thing is always worth it.